So Jai Hind everybody. We are just few days away from the active portion of Operation Sindoor, though it still continues till date. Before this, we were talking of two fronts. That in northern front we will be fighting with China, and on the western front will be fighting Pakistan. Basically, two geographies and two countries. But what has emerged during Operation Sindoor, China is as good as fighting from the Pakistani soil. That is, from both the countries have fought us in a single geography, and this trend is likely to increase in days to come. China will try to avoid fighting from its own territory unless there are compulsions and deliberate plans. Because once you fight from your own territory, then you also have a chance of losing, and that may cause embarrassment at the national and international level. Now, we couldn't have had the better speaker than our guest today, who is a known China expert, not only in the India, but also in the international community. And before we hand him over the talk, I'll request Dr. Ulupi to introduce the speaker, please.
Thank you, sir. Srikanth Kondapalli is a professor in Chinese Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University. He was former Dean of School of International Studies, JNU, from 2022 to 2024. He was also the chairman of the Center for East Asian Studies, SIS JNU. He is chair professor under the Chair of Excellence of Ministry of Defense since August 2022. He is educated in Chinese Studies in India and China with a PhD in Chinese Studies. The professor learned Chinese language at Beijing Language and Culture University and was a postdoctoral visiting fellow at People's University, Beijing from 1996 to 98. He was a visiting professor at National Chengchi University, Taipei in 2004, a visiting fellow at China Institute of Contemporary International Relations, Beijing, an honorary professor at Shandong University, Jinan, at Zilin University, Changchun in 2014, and at Yunnan University of Finance and Economics, Kunming in 2016 and 2017. A non-resident senior fellow at People's University since 2014, and a fellow at Salzburg Global Seminar in 2010. He wrote two books, China's Military, the PLA in Transition in 1999, and the China's Naval Power in 2001. He wrote two monographs and co-edited 6 volumes, Asian Security and China, China and its Neighbors, China's Military and India, China and the BRICS, Setting Up a Different Kitchen, One Belt, One Road, China's Global Outreach, China and COVID-19, Domestic and External Dimensions, and a number of articles in journals and edited volumes, all on China. He received the K. Subramaniam Award in 2010 for excellence in research in strategic and security studies. He is a guest faculty at Indian Armed Forces units, including at the National Defense College, Army War College, College of Air Warfare, College of Naval Warfare, and College of Defense Management. He is a distinguished fellow at several think tanks, including Vivekananda International Foundation and Institute for Peace and Conflict Studies. He supervised more than 30 PhD researchers at JNU and is also an academic advisor for PhD researchers at Al-Farabi Kazakh National University and Ablai Khan University at Almaty and Tamkham University, Taipei. He was the editor of JNU SIS International Studies Journal, being published by SAGE. Thank you, sir. I take it.
Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ulpi, and thank you very much, sir, for the kind invite. About a decade ago, I did a project with CENJOWS. This is through USI, United Services Institution. This is on CNP, Comprehensive National Power, so the volume that you have. We submitted the report.
We have that.
Thank you very much for the invite. It's my first time after that project was completed. Well, today the discussion is on the last 1 month. We have had the Operation Sindoor from May 6th night to May 10th. And China's role here is very crucial. So the theme of today's talk is on the China-Pakistan relations and its impact on India's national security. So basically, I have a few slides, 13 slides. and I look at the various aspects. But to start with, there is the broad uh, China-Pakistan nexus. This is reflected in several fields, but I would condense that into mainly four bullet points. One is in terms of the support to Pakistan substantially in all spheres from 1963. So these include primarily in conventional and nuclear and ballistic missile uh, technologies, transport systems, and so on. So 81% of the Pakistani inventory is made of Chinese products, and this constitute about $21 billion worth arms to Pakistan. But there is also the support in the civilian sphere. $52 billion spent in the CPEC projects, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and roughly about 20,000 Chinese workers are in Pakistan. If you remember, Liu Tsumi, a researcher at the Shanghai Institute of National Studies, he wrote an article during this conflict between India and Pakistan, saying the red lines. One is if any Chinese is killed in the conflict, if any CPEC projects are destroyed, affected due to the bombings and so on, the Chinese would straight away assist Pakistan in a direct manner. Previously, it was all indirect, and today it will be more overt ways of support to Pakistan. So CPEC is essential, and CPEC is the obsession for China in terms of the conflict and even before in terms of the China-Pakistan relations. This is considered to be the flagship program of the Belt and Road Initiative. Flagship would mean that is the center, and maximum assistance was provided in the BRI, the CPEC projects. That is the focus of the Chinese effort in Pakistan. So it comes in three manners, three ways. One is infrastructure projects, roads, railways, fiber optics, Huawei 5G networks, and also energy pipelines, hydroelectric projects. So that is one section. The second section is Gwadar Port. As you know, it was taken on a 45-year lease by a Chinese company. And closer to this is Jimani, which they want to convert into a base in future. So Hambantota was given on a 99-year lease and Gwadar on a 45-year lease. So it is a long-term plan that China has. China has also extended a lot of loans and FDI. I will come to the loans portion, which is kind of strangulating Pakistan in a way because of these projects that have been commissioned. So this is the comprehensive support to Pakistan. The second is in terms of the assistance in the international space, in global diplomacy, in United Nations Security Council, in various United Nations Security Council, for example, the 1267 committee that is called the Al-Qaeda committee. This is a committee which has been established to counter terrorism. And there is a sanctions committee of this 1267. And this basically goes into various forms of terrorism and how to proscribe various terrorist organizations. So during the India-Pakistan conflict, the sanctions committee met in the UN, and Li Changqie, the Chinese interlocutor for this program, he dropped the word the resistance front from the draft of the 1267 committee. As you know, the resistance front claimed responsibility for the Pahalgam on April 22nd, twice. And then a third time, they said it was their website was hacked. They have no responsibility for this and so on. So it was back and forth by the resistance front. But what they did was not only to remove the resistance front from the draft, but also include Baluch Liberation Army and the Majid Brigade, which is responsible for several attacks in Pakistan. So the providing international space is very crucial, especially in this 1267 committee, because there is an effort, as you know, we have sent several parliamentary delegations, and these have fanned over around the places. And finally, we got about 123 countries supporting our position on the Pahalgam terror attacks. And the Pakistanis and Chinese were able to get 35 countries, in supporting their position. And so the drafting is basically we condemn the attacks on Pakistani civilians. As you know, we have on May 6th night, we have launched those attacks on terror camps in various places. And so there were some civilian casualties. These are terrorists. These are families of the terrorists. In Bawalpur, in Muridke, for example, families of the terrorists were also killed in these madrasas and others. So the 35 countries were basically proposing those aspects. So this international space is very important for Pakistan to get the support from China, because China is a Security Council member, so it can mobilize support for this. But not just in this, but also, if you recall, in 2009, we got the clean waiver in the 123 agreement with the United States. Clean waiver in the sense of India not proliferating the WMD, weapons of mass destruction. And so there is the effort to get uranium technology and others from the IAEA and NSG. So President Bush at the time called up Qintao. Hu Jintao was going around to different places. So there was no way that we could convince the Chinese. But it's only at the 11th hour we got the waiver in the IAEA. China put a condition that Pakistan should also be given the same waiver as India got. But Pakistan's record was not so good in terms of the WMD transfers. So you know that the Abdul Qadir Khan transfers to Libya, Syria, Iran, various other countries, North Korea. So he had made very explicit comments in February 2002 about the transfers. And so there is no way that IAEA and NSG can give the clean waiver to Pakistan. But that was the condition that China had put forth. So it means a lot for Pakistan in terms of that space, global space in this. But also figuratively speaking in space, outer space. There is a organization called APSCO, Asia Pacific Space Cooperation Organization. There are some 12 countries in this: Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Sri Lanka. All of these are part of the APSCO. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that there are over 156 satellites that China launched, mainly for Earth observation. And there are roughly about 28 of these are spy satellites looking at basically. And China shifted several satellites towards the India-Pakistan conflict areas, basically POK, Kashmir, Punjab, and other regions during the conflict. So they repositioned these satellites and were providing real-time information to the Pakistanis. So APSCO becomes very crucial because Pakistan is a member of the APSCO, and so legitimately they could channelize this information to them. But what is important is from April, actually, not during May, but April onwards, these satellites have been shifted to the India-Pakistan areas. So there is a definitive trend. Those of you who have followed this, the Maxar and other, there is a huge, on Pahalgam, on various others, they have been acquiring a lot of information about these areas even before, since February, March. So the satellite shift to April is a preparatory stage for the China-Pakistan. So there is something going on even before. We could not really trace this, but that is how it has. This second bullet point, providing cooperation in the international space, that is very important for Pakistan because it's a backup for Pakistan, the Chinese support. Third is in the multilateral institutions. As you know, Prime Minister Modi made a commitment saying we support China's SEO meeting this year. Somewhere in September, the Tianjin meeting of the SEO will be held. And so this was even before the India-Pakistan conflict, actually last year, when the October 21, the arrangement on the LAC was disengagement patrolling. These were announced at the time. And in Kazan, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping met on October 23rd, 2 days later after the disengagement process was announced. So in this meeting, Prime Minister Modi said we support China's SEO candidature, the presidency, and the meeting that is going to be held this year. So there is a commitment in that sense, a public announcement we made, which means that the China, Pakistan, India equation in SEO, as you may also recall, Prime Minister Modi made a statement in the Qingdao meeting in SEO in 2019, where he mentioned that CPEC is illegal. It affects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of India. He made this upfront in the plenary meeting of the SEO. And except for India, all the SEO members endorsed the CPEC projects. But we have opposed this openly, and that has been the stance, government of India's stance on. So the SEO meeting in Tianjin would probably will take up all of these in the next few months. Because this month, according to the schedule, Jaishankar has to go to China and RM has to go to China for the preparatory meetings for the SEO. So we do not know whether they are going or not, but this means that we will have some discussions with the Chinese. Obviously, there will be India-Pakistan conflict will come up in those discussions because China made several statements regarding the, as I will show you later on in the India-Pakistan conflict. So, Pakistan, India in SEO would be a major kind of ASEAN. The Chinese have been supporting Pakistan's membership here, not yet, but they have been in this process. Most crucial also the Afghan peace process. SEO has the Afghan peace process, but one day after we had this ceasefire, on May 11th, Wang Yi, the foreign minister, met with the Taliban leader and the Pakistan foreign minister Ishaq Dar in Beijing. So they have a meeting process here in the Afghan peace process. So we should also factor in the, as you know, during this time, we have opened up to the Taliban. There is the Ministry of External Affairs officials who met the Taliban leaders. This is basically because we wanted to deny the strategic depth for Pakistan by opening up to the Taliban leaders. So if you look at the Pakistani map, you have the BLA, Baluch Liberation Army, which has already announced independence, but nobody recognized it. But there is also the Taliban on the Durand line and the Northwest Frontier Province and upwards, northwards. And then India in this side. So Pakistan is kind of constrained with no strategic depth So China wants to wean away Afghanistan as a part of this process of providing support to Pakistan. So that's where I think the Afghan peace process should be factored in. Uh, Also, in the fourth manner, during times of crisis, China supported the Pakistanis. I wanted to, I mean, we all know about the 65 war, 71 war, 99, and other. But what is not known very much is the 79 to 89, Chinese military intelligence trained the Mujahideen. We know that Osama bin Laden was trained by the CIA, and a lot of arms and other things have been transferred to the Mujahideen. But what we do not know is Xiong Huangkai, a deputy PLA chief of general staff, who now teaches in Tsinghua University. He wrote two books. In one of these books, he mentioned that he was a senior colonel, that's our brigadier rank. At that time in 79 to 89, he was a senior colonel and he was put in charge for training the Mujahideen. And he says in these books that they had 350 instructors from the Chinese military intelligence to train the Mujahideen. And he gives a figure of roughly about 3,000 people whom they have trained during that time. As you know, in most of these schools, training schools, what happens is, if I'm the instructor, I know where my students are, even today. In Fatah region, in other places, they have huge database as well as contacts with the terrorists, with the Mujahideen descendants, let's say like that. So these include the Al Qaeda, these include the PLA, these include TTP, these include a host of other people. So China is still in touch with the descendants of the Mujahideen. That's very important. Of course, today it is different. Today there is a schism. Some have shifted to ISIS in Syria. ISIS has ISKP, Islamic State of Khorasan province, which trains the Uyghurs. So this is not foreseen at the time. And they think that the East Turkestan Islamic movement also is propped up by these Mujahideen descendants. So the problem for China is that as long as the ISI doesn't back up these Uyghur leaders, as long as the ISI hands over these to the PAPF, Pakistan, the People's Armed Police Force, which is like the ITBP in China, or the CRPF or other paramilitary forces. So the deal between China and Pakistan is that the Uyghur leaders should be handed over to the PAPF, while they have no concern of the parliament attackers or others whom they need not give it back to India. As you know, Deputy Prime Minister L.K. Advani had given that list to the Pakistanis, but we have not heard from the Pakistanis so far. But what is important is Mr. Rashid, who is number 2 in ETIM, East Turkestan Islamic Movement, was handed over by the ISI, and he was executed by China. So this is a regular feature where the ISI would pick up the Uyghur leaders and then they hand over these. I want to also slightly digress here. The Western Theater Command, which looks after the entire line of actual control, and Western Theater Command Commander Wang Haiqian has been constructing these well-off society villages, 628 of them, which are put up on the LSE with us, with Nepal, with Bhutan, with others. But Wang Haiqian is also making inroads into Badakhshan. He's creating a buffer zone there because ISKP is active even in Badakhshan. If you look at the map, Badakhshan connects Xinjiang and goes beyond the Gilgit-Baltistan in that Wakhan corridor. This is kind of treacherous route for most of the terrorists to transit. So they generally go to Andijan, Fergana Valley, and then regroup in Xinjiang. So that's a route they follow with drugs, with small arms, with others. So Wang Haijiang is creating some mobile bases in Tajikistan, which borders Afghanistan, Badakhshan province, but also in terms of the Badakhshan itself. So he's creating a lot of infrastructure, dual use infrastructure, and also training the Afghan National Army. And now, of course, the Taliban forces in Badakhshan. So this is generally overlooked, the China's connection to the terrorists. I will explain that further later on in the subsequent slides. The others are, we all know about those, 65, 71 war, 99 Kargil, and others. So, so this is generally overlooked, the China's connection to the terrorists. So here is the good terrorist, bad terrorist phenomena coming up. As long as the Uyghurs are handed over to China, the Chinese are satisfied. But if it is BLA, if it is other, then China doesn't really bother about the. But even in this, there is a tension. Baluch Liberation Army started blowing up the Chinese. So that's the reason why BLA was included in the 1267 committee sanctions. So that is the rub. For example, last year in Karachi airport, outside the airport, the BLA blew up 2 Chinese engineers. So China said they want to do the investigation of this attack. They already started doing the investigation. But most important, China wants to establish a police station in Pakistan. Now, police station would mean a sovereign right, a sovereign territory, a sovereign aspect. Pakistan objected to this, but Pakistan could not resist the inclusion of these PAPF investigators in these attacks. So
I think that China also has some other countries also.
Yeah, about 16 police stations in all. Even in the US, by the way, UK. In Birmingham, there was a Hong Kong activist who was protesting on the national security law in Hong Kong. So he was taken inside the consulate, beaten up black and blue, and then his body was thrown out. That's what this police station did. By the way, we had a Chinese police station in Noida, in the Yamuna bed, river bed. It's a 2-storied building. They had a lot of arms, a lot of drugs, and they were entertaining a lot of people. This is, of course, the entire thing was caught and captured. But we also had Chinese police stations in close to, not far away from this place. Okay, so this is the strategic nexus. Military cooperation. Since we are running out of time, I will be very quick. Hardware, software, military aid, defense industrial infrastructure, logistics build-up, military exercises, and also the arms transfer. Those are mentioned. So that is military cooperation. That's quite substantial. Also the nuclear. If you remember, Prime Minister Modi, in his televised speech, he made 3 conditions. One is state, non-state actor differentiation will not be tolerated. Second is nuclear blackmail will not be tolerated. And third is the POK is the only one on the table to be discussed rather than any Kashmir region. So the nuclear thing is important because what China is doing is now allowing Pakistan by the IAEA NSG to move away from Kahuta, which is mainly meant for the enriched uranium, and focus on Chashma projects. Chashma 1, 2, 3 is the effort they are doing so that the pressure on Kahuta is removed and Chashma projects will be able to. So there is also the nuclear. But in the ballistic missile, in Fatehganj factory, which is next to Rawalpindi, Chinese technicians are training the Pakistani scientists in long-range missile systems. Now, this doesn't violate any international arms control disarmament if you transfer the brain. If you train somebody, that doesn't violate any arms control disarmament agencies, like MTCR, like other. So this is easier way of, and this is going on for some time. So let's come to the Pahalgam, the main focus. So after the April 22nd killings, attacks in Pahalgam, Ko Chiakun, the foreign ministry spokesperson, said, we strongly condemn the attack. China firmly opposes all forms of terrorism. We mourn for the lives lost and express sincere sympathies to the bereaved families and the injured. But there is no direct support to India in any form in terms of counter-terrorism. What we actually saw was China was supporting Pakistan. So 5 days after the attack, Wang Yi, foreign minister, called up the Pakistani counterpart, Shagdar, and said, we have an ironclad friendship, all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. And he suggests that Pakistan's legitimate security concerns that needs to be respected, and Pakistan's sovereignty and security interests. Now, this is quite strange. In all the joint statements, China keeps mentioning this. On the other hand, Pakistan transferred Agil, Shimshal, Ruksam, Sachgam, 19,300 square kilometers of Kashmir territory. Now, so this is carefully phrased, safeguarding Pakistan's sovereignty and security interests. POK is not placed in the Pakistan's constitution. You carefully look at the Pakistan's constitution, it doesn't figure out anywhere. So by mentioning sovereignty, they are excluding Agil, Shimshal, Ruksam, and Sakshta, in addition, of course, to the Aksai Chin in this. So this is a crucial phrase, but China uses this for all the South Asian countries other than India. If you look at China, Nepal joint statements, China, Bangladesh joint statements, China, Sri Lanka joint statements, China, Maldives joint statements you mentioned. So this is basically aimed at India, aimed against India on, but they also said we want a swift and fair investigation on the Pahalgam attacks. So their theory is that this was done by our own agencies in order for us to counter Pakistan. Now, it is like saying the CIA had done the 9/11. Of course, there are some theories also. You know that on July 5th, 2009, there was a major incident in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang. 189 people were killed. In Mumbai attacks, we lost 165. In this, 189 people were killed, but no global news about this. The National Security Guards, we mobilized 2,400 in the Mumbai attacks. It's a terrorist attack. Uyghurs just went. They just went and killed the Han Chinese, and it was a major. So they mobilized 40,000 troops. We mobilized 2,400 for Mumbai, but they mobilized nearly 40,000 PAPF troops. So there was no fair investigation into the Urumqi incident. And in April 2021, Australian Prime Minister called for a investigation, comprehensive investigation into the COVID-19 origins. And China imposed a lot of bans on the Australian products. $120 billion worth of goods was shut down between Australia and China. So China wants a fair investigation in all other incidents, but not in their own territory and major events. COVID-19, 7 million people were killed in the pandemic. We lost all our dear ones. I lost 2 of my cousins in this, and they were my buddies, and it was really painful in terms of, but no fair investigation into the Wuhan origins of the virus. So you see the how China was trying to build up. So China is a balancer for mobilization on borders with India, arms transfer. Currently, they were planning the J-35 and J-20, but previously PL-15 air-to-air missile system, JF-17. Yesterday, the Myanmaris have shot down a JF-17.
Government is saying it was a crash.
Yeah, the Pakistani side admitted to 2 JF-17s lost in the India-Pakistan conflict. China transferred Hongqi 9, which is roughly around S-300 capability. That was, and Wingloom 3 drones. None of these really could function. PL-15, several of them fell in Hoshiarpur and in another district in Punjab. We gave some models to the Japanese to test. We also gave some models to the Taiwanese to go into the PL-15 air-to-air missile system because they are going to be facing the flak in the near future. So there is some cooperation in regard to the PL-15E air-to-air missile system. They also, during the India-Pakistan conflict, there is the Western Theater Command. There were some soft exercises. These are basically not full-scale exercises. These are drills. These are operations conducted at a very low level in Kashgar and Aksu. These are the 2 places where the high infantry divisions are mobilized during Galwan in 2020. So these are again the areas for the soft exercises, soft drills, not exercises. Then there is also coordinated gray zone warfare, cyber attacks, space cooperation. I mentioned about those satellites, information warfare, electronic warfare, and maritime. 246 fishing vessels were detected in Bay of Bengal. And as you know, in the DGMO presentation, there was the Navy component of the DGMO, and Indian Navy was mobilized. We were contemplating attacks on Karachi. So the Chinese were already mobilized in terms of the fishing vessels. So that is important in terms of the maritime domain. So the May 9th attacks, the foreign ministry spokesperson mentioned that the Indian military operation is regrettable. They didn't use the word we condemn. So this is regrettable. In diplomacy, if you use regrettable, it means that we are open for discussion, we are open for negotiations, so there is a window that is opened up. So in diplomacy, there are several layers. So China used a very innocuous word, regrettable. Of course, the attacks have already taken place, and so that is, so I skip this slide. So also, I will skip the first few bullet points, but the last one. So the Chinese describe their relationship with Pakistan as all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. So they have 4 elements in this. Mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. I mentioned to you the Agil, Shimshal, Ruksam, and Sakchigang, which is kind of excluded from this. Non-interference and peaceful coexistence. Here, non-interference, I wanted to deliberately bring back those police stations. And when Dasu hydroelectricity project incident took place twice, but 2 years ago, some 9 people were killed in this attack. Hu Shichin, the editor of Global Times, he was now removed, but he said that he wrote an article saying after the 9 Chinese were killed in Dasu hydroelectricity project, China should launch missiles on the TTP and attack the Pakistan-based terrorists. So China at one level also wants to launch missiles on Pakistan. So BrahMos and others that we launched finds resonance in China, even though they oppose this explicitly. So you should dig out this article, Hu Shichin's article in Global Times. He very explicitly said we should attack Pakistan with missiles. Of course, you can't attack terrorists with missiles. There are here and there are nowhere, right? But the fact that China is prepared to move in that direction indicates that we can play up the BrahMos in future. So that is important point that I wanted to mention. Pakistan is a member of the Community of Shared Destiny. This is a new concept in China's foreign policy. This is something like allies and friends. If any country wants to be a global power, it needs allies and friends, like the United States has. It also needs bases, like the Americans have. Americans have 2,000 bases. China has only 1 base, Djibouti naval base. But they are looking for bases abroad. So potentially Hambantota, Godar, Jimani, one island that Maldives had leased to China could also be a base in future. So Pakistan is a member of the Community of Shared Destiny, which means that they are close to an alliance. In 1960s, General Yahya Khan suggested that Pakistan should have a military alliance with China, and the Chinese rejected this at the time. But today you have the Community of Shared Destiny as a part of the alliance system. They call this partnership, but actually it is very intensive. We saw that happening during the India-Pakistan conflict. So politically, I wanted to stress on this Community of Shared Destiny on Pakistan. So the others are routine. So military, we saw the C4ISR. I mentioned the conventional spear and the nuclear ballistic missile. So let's skip some of those. There is one Pakistani colonel at the Western Theater Command for the past 10 years. There is a Chinese senior colonel that is a brigadier level officer in Rawalpindi. What do? They coordinate between the Pakistan armed forces and the Chinese forces. So this has been going on for the past 10 years. So we see that there is a lot of coordination between the two. Ranade, Jaydev Ranade had got this piece of information some 10 years ago. We haven't really acted upon it. So it is. This is the first combat for the Chinese weapon systems supplied to Pakistan after the 79 Vietnam. So if you look at the Chinese press, 99% of focus is on J10C, how it performed. There is no word about terrorism. There is no word about casualties on Pakistan front or India front. They're kind of obsessed. Yes, so coincidentally, J10C is a LAVI project from Israel Aviation Industries. It was cancelled because the Americans opposed it. It was supposed to be a rival to F-16. But main problem was they didn't have an engine. So they sold the entire airframe, also the air-to-air missile Python series. Python is the PL-15E. So LAVI is a Israeli project given to the Chinese. PL-15E is a version of Python which was transferred by Israel to China. And this Jewish equipment is being used by an Islamic state in Pakistan in the India-Pakistan conflict. You can see the irony of the whole thing. And Pakistan is gung-ho about PL-15E and J10C, and the Chinese are also, not many people raise this issue to counter Pakistan on that. Because Xi Jinping also is supporting Hamas. They invited Palestinian leaders and Hamas leaders, and they criticized the Israelis in Gaza. Xi Jinping made a statement during the India-Pakistan conflict on Gaza, by the way. So this is very interesting. So China's support to Pakistan is in diplomacy, in the military field, conventional strategic weapons training, C4SR, and all others. The third is in the disinformation campaign. Massive disinformation campaign. This is what CBS said in Singapore. We made tactical mistakes in the initial stage, that May 6th strike. And China caught up substantially, and we lost the cognitive war in the first 2 days. So we need to really do some homework on this. So there is massive disinformation campaign, but we also woke up and started doing other things. One of the things is the Indian embassy in Beijing gave an advisory to the Global Times officially. They sent a note saying all that information that you are dishing out is wrong. Please check your facts. And so this is actually a slap in the face of the Global Times, which is a Communist Party publication, which is a sister organization to the People's Daily, which is part of the Central Committee Propaganda Department of the Communist Party. So, so that has happened. India blocked the Twitter X account of the English version of Xinhua, as well as Global Times, but it removed later on. So what is important is cognitive warfare is important, and China played a big role for Pakistan in this disinformation. And in the initial stages, we lost that cognitive warfare. So that is one failure we had. Again, the last points are important. I won't mention the first few. So Pakistan got a bailout 14 times so far from the IMF. And they are growing at a very low level, 2.5% growth rate. Previously minus 2.5, now 2.5 for 2024. And this year, further decline in growth rates, which means the Pakistani debt is increasing. This year, they have to pay $2 billion. During the India-Pakistan conflict, you saw the IMF bailout announced. And the total debt that they have is $130 billion. Pakistan has only 2 days of logistics during the Operation Sindoor. We have 3 to 4 months of logistics backup, but they have just about 2 days. They have about $6 billion in their kitty. If the expenses mount, there is no way these can be borne by the Pakistani exchequer. So that's one reason for the ceasefire announcement that Pakistan made. But what is interesting is 22% of Pakistan's debt is for China. So Pakistan is actually controlled by China in terms of that debt and military and other. So it's very in the process of the economic end. So these are some points related to the GDP, trade, economy, and dependence on China. Last 10 years, 34 Chinese were killed in Pakistan. These are the incidents since 2021 when 20 Chinese were killed. The last one was last October, Karachi airport, outside the Karachi airport. So these 20,000 Chinese, they actually travel in armored personal carriers. They don't go by these cars and buses and others. So because there were a number of attacks, especially in Balochistan, this is the fate of many Chinese here. So it's actually a problematic for many Chinese to live in Pakistan. But during the conflict, many Chinese posted blogs in the Chinese press saying that we are safe, our businesses are safe, nothing really was affected. There is no major incident in Lahore, in Karachi, and in other places. So there is a live connection between Chinese in Pakistan with the Chinese in China. This is the meeting a day after the understanding. We call understanding, the Pakistanis call ceasefire. So what about Chinese scholars and media? Hu Shushan is the head of the South Asia division and deputy director in Kikir. Dr. Ulupi mentioned that I was a fellow in Kikir. Kikir is a classified organization. Kikir is the public security ministry, like a home ministry. So I was a fellow. I was in IDSA at the time. I was a research fellow at that. This is 2007, so ages ago. So we invited Hu Shushan to IDSA, and all our computers were gone by the time we left. We didn't notice. So when I went there to Kikir, I also asked the same privileges, an office computer, a secretary, access to the library. They said, no, this is all classified, we can't give you anything. And I can only enter the conference room. I cannot discuss with anybody, any other. So that was the state of reciprocity, that if we have any arrangement with the Chinese. Hu Shushan in this conflict said Bangladesh should be a bigger role. You know that Fazlur Rahman is an advisor to Yunus, made a statement saying Siliguri corridor will be countered during this India-Pakistan conflict. So this is kind of coincidental between Hu Shushan's statement on Bangladesh and Lau Chun Hao, another from Kikir. He said there won't be any full-scale conflict between India and Pakistan. Of course, we made a statement that escalation, initial statement on May 7th, that there won't be any escalation. This is Lin Min Wang teaches in Fudan University. So he mentions Kashmir as the basis for conflict between India and Pakistan. He gave a speech on May 20th in Wuhan University, where he said the India-Pakistan conflict is the Modi's 1962 moment. So he brought in deliberately China front into the China conflict in 1962 conflict as a part of the India-Pakistan. Liu Chungi, I mentioned already about the CPEC and any Chinese casualties in Pakistan as a collateral damage to the India-Pakistan conflict, as a reason for Chinese presence, Chinese activity in Pakistan. Yao Yuanmei served the Chinese embassy in Delhi. She is now teaching in East China Normal University in Shanghai. So she said that the Indian plan currently is part of the Akhand Bharat. And, it's not just about Kashmir, Pakistan, but also about Afghanistan, Central Asia, all that. So that's her. So she said India is following an imperial thinking. So, a lot of Trang Chaoze and Hu Yuting from Sichuan University, their comments were much more extensive. So their assessment is that India wants to independently enter into the sub-regional conflicts, and this is a danger to China in the coming years. It's not just about Pakistan. India's sights are basically on China. So that's the very interesting point that they made. Ta Kung Pao, which is a pro-China newspaper in Hong Kong, so their focus again is on J-10 and the Rafale incident. The crucial thing is China now is an exporter of the military. So this came on May 9th, but not on May 10th. By May 10th, all the Hongqi 9s have been silenced. Winglong 3 have been destroyed by the Jaguars, and the F-16, the C-130J, and others were destroyed. So basically, Ta Kung Pao is trying to say that China is now the exporter for arms abroad, for Asia, Africa, South America, etc. But what is important is on May 11th, Raksha Mantri opened a BrahMos third factory. And we are now exporting this, including to Greece and Cyprus. PM is making a visit today to Cyprus. So the BrahMos is for Lee Kwangman. He writes for the Kunlun Strategic Network. I've given the URLs here. You can check out. There's a lot of stuff coming out in China. And you can access this from here. And so he said that this is not only a victory for Pakistan Air Force, but also a major victory for Chinese weapons. They never mentioned about Hongqi 9 and Winglong 3 or JF-17. They only mention about the J-10C incident and exaggerate the whole situation. So it's a proud moment for the Chinese military industry in front of the world, which should make the Chinese people happy and excited. But after that day, the total assessment was actually reverse. Then there is one called Uncle Ming. So if you don't want to be identified, if you are a high-level military official, you don't want to be identified, they use these pen names. Mao Zedong used a pen name to criticize Nehru in '62 in a People's Daily editorial. So it is a habit in China to use some name. So here this Uncle Ming, I assume this is a very high-level PLA officer. We don't have information, but for the Indian government, which has been full of confidence in recent years, it should abandon the attempt to blackmail China with military force and turn to truly manage differences and live in peace with China. So he was basically launching a psychological war, and on the next level or commander level meeting on the border. So basically this is a precursor for the next or commander level meeting. We had 23 meetings, 24th is due. WMCC meeting is also due, so that is what we should expect in future. So basically a psychological. This is my last slide. So there is a view that China is neutral in the conflict. I was mentioning in the whole that China is actually an interested party and it is a party to the dispute as a whole. So the active role is in diplomacy on terrorism, defense capabilities of Pakistan, and disinformation campaign. But the most key problem for China is this is contiguous to Tibet and Xinjiang, in which China still has a very tentative hold on Tibet and Xinjiang. China thinks that India would attack Tibet lines of communications in a future conflict with China. That we are planning to cut off China's links with Tibet and Xinjiang. In their extreme positions, they take this view. They think that the Indian Air Force is planning to do these things in their assessments. Somehow or the other, they come up in the blocks. So you have to really watch this in the Chinese press. For us, two-front war under nuclear threshold. I remember General Kapoor, Deepak Kapoor initiated the two-front war under nuclear threshold. You're mentioning something. It began in 2009 and it becomes more significant now in terms of taking both Pakistan and China together in our threat assessments and in actual combat scenarios. Finally, the Indian victory will have a major impact on CPEC. This is a view that the Chinese have. One, Prime Minister Modi said CPEC is illegal. So the Chinese concern is CPEC is going to be destroyed in a future conflict. And Aksai Chin is also the focus, and POK, which Prime Minister made very explicit in his televised speech on 12th May. So these are some things that I have for the discussion.